So welcome to the Kermode Uncut blog and the part of the blog which is rapidly turning into Film School 101, the history lesson part of the blog. I did a blog a couple of weeks ago saying if you'd seen Lars von Trier's Antichrist, which has just come out on DVD, then you should try and track down Andrzej Żuławski's film Possession, a really strange film, but I think that Antichrist owed an awful lot to Possession. This week I want to draw your attention to the past career of the Hughes brothers. Hughes brothers have a new movie out in the cinema at the moment, The Book of Eli.
Close your eyes.
It was shown to critics very late. It opened on a Friday. We only saw it on a Tuesday, and I've already reviewed it on the Simon Mayo Show, so you may well know that I kind of enjoyed it. Very, very strange film. It suffers somewhat from the fact that it's a post-apocalyptic movie about a guy on the road, and it's in cinemas at the same time as John Hillcoat's The Road, which is a tough movie to be up against. Although I've seen a lot of things in post-apocalyptic movies, but Book of Eli is the first one in which I've seen a machine gun-toting Francis de la Tour. So that's always worth checking out. That's something very new. But it made me think once again about the Hughes brothers and what extraordinary talents they are. You see, there's a weird thing happened in cinema. In the 1980s, there was a lot of talk about the new black cinema. And people were talking about, for example, Spike Lee, a lot of stuff about Spike Lee being the real forefront of this, and John Singleton. Fewer people really talked about the virtues of the Hughes brothers movies. They made a big splash with Menace to Society, which had a bit of a problem when it first came out on video here in the UK. There was a fuss about whether or not it would inspire crimes, whether or not it needed to be cut. They made an adaptation of the comic book From Hell, which was kind of controversial because, again, you work in comic book territory, you're always going to catch a lot of flack. They made a long documentary called American Pimp, and now Book of Eli, which, as I said, wasn't really shown very widely to the critics a long time in advance, despite the fact that it had Denzel Washington in the lead role. But the real gem in the Hughes brothers' back catalogue is Dead Presidents, which for me is one of the true milestone films of the 1990s and is far more an example of what the, in inverted commas, new black cinema wave was really about than perhaps some of the more celebrated movies by the likes of Spike Lee. It's an extraordinary film which owes a debt to some extent to Martin Scorsese. Its depiction of the socio-cultural American life is really precise, really clear, a fabulous use of soundtracks. I mean, the Hughes brothers are mired in an understanding of music video. It also has in it a section which is about 18 minutes long, which is an extraordinary depiction of the horrors of Vietnam, which does, in that tiny, compact segment, more than all the platoons or all that big wave of Vietnam movies, which really kind of reveled in the spectacle of Vietnam. I first saw Dead Presidents when I was working at Radio 1. I was just knocked out by what an impressive piece of work it was. And I remember saying at the time, this is it. The Hughes brothers, they're going to be huge. You're going to hear nothing but Hughes brothers. They are the real forefront of this wave. And then, of course, what actually happened was that they haven't made that many movies since. From Hell, American Pimp was a documentary, and now Book of Eli. And yet, in Dead Presidents is evidence of all that excitement, all that talent, all that bristling energy. I mean, a real something to be grappled with, something of substance, something that really makes you think, wow, that's what modern cinema should be like. So, your homework for this week, track down a copy of Dead Presidents if you haven't already seen it. It spawned, I think, 2 soundtrack albums, really fantastic soundtrack. And let me know on the blog what you think of it, because it was one of those movies that wasn't seen widely enough, certainly not here in the UK. And it really deserves your attention, because it really is the Hughes brothers at the top of their game.